Not just about the oral mastication pleasure. It's about giving yourself fuel to carry on your deeds. And when you actually enjoy it, you slow down, you have good company, it digests more efficiently. So it's not just about the taste, it's about the setting, it's about the chair, the table, the environment you're in. We can learn a lot from the French in this aspect. I had housemates from France. The man was from Champagne and the woman was from the north near the Alps, and they would spend hours on each meal, flowing conversation. They'd have little tapas plates. They take their time. They'd use the fuel from the food to inspire the conversation. Meal times are very sacred, not to be just rushed off in some whimsical just chore you have to do. It should be cherished. But obviously sometimes you're busy, you're on the go, you've got to just quickly do what you've got to do. Yeah, fair enough. But when you've got the time, make it an experience. Make it something to be remembered. Make it something that gets all your senses fired up. Seen that video? Where's that girl that's giving me pancakes and she's showing off her breast? She's like... And it's very hard for me to go to restaurants and go to other people's houses for lunch because my cooking is so much better. And other people just don't know how to do things. They heat up the pan first before they cook the meat. Or they just make the food cold. Like, you have to serve the food hot. And it has to be spiced. It's little things, you know? You don't mix proteins either. You don't have fish with meat. You have meat, you do meat. Like, these to me are pretty basic things. You don't mix protein with carbohydrates. You can mix carbohydrates with vegetables. You can mix protein with vegetables, but not protein with carbohydrates. So you don't have bread and meat. You have meat and vegetables, or bread and vegetables. It helps the digestive process. You get more out of it. Something like condensate? What do you mean to mix protein with? Vegetables. So, like for example, I have leek and 2 types of mushrooms with lamb steak. Because when you mix bread with protein, it disrupts the digestive process and you're not getting maximum nutritional benefits. You may as well just eat 50% less because you're not going to get the iron. It's just going to go straight through you. Like, I used to have this housemate. He was a bikie gang affiliate, successful member of Gypsy Jokers in Western Australia, and he was telling me that the more he eats, he just seems to go to the lavatory more often, and that's a sign that his food pairing is off. I don't care what anyone says, lamb is the best meat by far. Go to lamb all day, every day. So much better than beef or chicken or fish or kangaroo. Lamb, it's just the flavors are so complex, and when you char it, it has like almost a whole new flavor. It's the most delicate as well. It's also the best to cook well. Beef is better like raw or only mildly done, whereas lamb, is the only meat that tastes better well done. And so if you like that smoky char-grilled flavor, it's ideal. Had a very good morning this morning because I made it good. I went to my local church and there was a very interesting speech. They were talking about how this example of some king who had this employee, Elisha, and this Elisha, had to wake up and there was this big army outside of his kingdom, and so the best way he could combat this army, who was twice his army size, was to outwit them. He couldn't use brute force alone, so the best technique was he asked for them to be blinded, but that's not the point. The point is that he gave them a good meal, he gave them some drink, and then he tricked them to go to the different enemy, and so they went home. And so the point is, it's not the details, it's not the specifics. The point is, if you have a mighty force who's more powerful than you, brute force alone isn't the best way to combat them. It's usually with wit and through following righteousness. End of the day, it's way more sustainable. Because when you just try to use brute force alone to combat an enemy, it's never sustainable. Look what's happening in the Middle East. And what Ukraine is doing, they're just trying to get guns, from America to pay for them, but it's not working because you can't use brute force alone. You need to have spirit in your side. You need to have righteousness on your side. That's the best way to overcome evil. And I don't mean turn your cheek as in just let people bully you, but you can use alternative techniques, more cunning. Wow, that was such a good win. So it's very important as well. Cast iron pan, get it hot as fuck. And then you season the lamb steaks with extra virgin cold pressed olive oil, and then your Celtic sea salt and cracked pepper on the actual meat itself. You don't put the oil on the pan. And then halfway through, that's when you add a lot of lard fat. And you add mushrooms, because then the moisture from the mushrooms help to kind of semi-broil the meat. And you add another pan on top, and then you put the cheese on there, and then it helps the cheese melt with the condensation from the mushrooms and from the lard. But also, it's very important to do that in stages because you want it to be crispy but moist at the same time. And people say, why do you get so focused on food? Well, I feel like when you enjoy a meal and it's healthy, then it can inspire you. It can inspire you to do greatness. It can give you strength to carry the torch, because it can really be a holy experience when you have a good meal. And there's a lot of talk online about how cooking is a feminine activity, but I say to you, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And I love my wife's cooking, but I love mine even more, because I know the little things, and because I have an intense passion to do it right. So they say, oh, man should be out making money, let the woman cook. But there's enough time to do both. And if you're a man, if you're strong, you can handle the labor. It's not that hard to fix a meal. it's also a meditative activity. It's a spiritual activity. When you're cooking, you have a chance to reflect. You have the chance to ruminate and ponder. And just that mild labor is enough to actually help activate the neurons in your brain to inspire creative thought. But don't think of it as a chore. Think of it as an opportunity to bask in the glory of your colourful ruminations. My wife and I, we have almost every night, we have in-depth philosophical, worldly conversations over mealtime. Because when you're focusing on each of the flavors and the cutting and which part you're going to eat, it's harder to be distracted by all of these different thoughts. It gives you a chance to kind of, because you're focusing on the mundane task, it actually enables the subconscious to come through, as opposed to just these petty little, like, oh, I've got to pay the bills, I've got to read the emails, I've got to walk the dog, I've got to go to the gym. You know, you can actually go deeper. You know, tap into your ancestors, get like the actual, I don't know, Ronaldo or Messi are. You can tap into something that's bigger than just our meat bodies, than ourselves, something that's connected to your ancestors. Because our lives are just so grand simply because of the toil of our ancestors. I just seen these people on the street. They went in their pram on our grass as opposed to the road. And I think that's a good idea, because I really don't like going on the road. Where I live, there's no footpaths. I probably shouldn't even be telling you this, because it might give you an idea on how to kill me. Not that I'm a wanted person, but maybe in the future I may be a big shot, and I may look back onto my videos and be like, oh, well, I know he lives with no footpath, so we could say it was a hit and run. I feel like if you know that you've got something special about you, you have an obligation to plan your life as if someone's trying to kill you in the future. So you don't give too many details about your weaknesses or vulnerabilities. Because you never know. Years to come, you may make it. You may be a big shot, and someone will, with a fine-tooth comb, will look through any exposed jugular and use that to extort you and to take from you. So yeah, if you know you're going to be successful, cover your tracks from day one. And that also means not using women for their bodies. Like, I've only had like 6 or 7 or 8 sexual experiences with different women, and I only had 2 or 3 major girlfriends, and my current wife included, and that's on purpose. Not just because I prefer long term over short term. It's also because it's practical. Because I've been with my wife now for 9 years, and I've been my ex-girlfriend back for 7 years. Before that, I was just a boy. So it's practical, because when you're in a monogamous relationship with one woman, it stops you from playing the field. And women don't like it when you just use them for their bodies. And so years later, if you become rich or famous, they're going to use that opportunity to get back their shame. So they can accuse you of something that's untrue, because they hated the fact that you didn't wife them up. And so you don't sleep around if you're going to be famous or rich, or even just someone who's like handsome or has a nice family. You know, people are going to try and break up what you have. So you've got to cover your tracks. And that means depriving yourself from indulgences, like you don't sleep around. And it's not that bad, because when you don't sleep around, it enables you to focus on other things. Like you can go on more hikes, you can read more books, you get more strength. You're not dealing with all this guilt and shame of like, hurting people's feelings. And you don't have to go on dates all the time, like to try and seduce women, right? So it's much more practical to have a wife because you can actually get, get all those hormones and stuff out the way. And women can make you stronger. Like if you have a good wife, then they can enhance your career because you're always discussing things, getting a feminine perspective on things, and then you have babies, and then you have the strength from the babies because of the babies. They usually, if you're beautiful, they're beautiful, and then you're like, oh, I've got this little beautiful person to look at, and then it like inspires you, and the oxytocin, you get hugs from them, and then it makes you feel warm, and you get more gentle, and being gentle, you can handle combat in a more intuitive manner as opposed to just brute force. I think it's also better to have a wife than to hang out with your friends so much, because if you hang out with your bros too much, what do? Like, you talk about women, go out to bars, sports games, etc. That's all just a waste of time. I mean, it's good to see your friends, but you shouldn't be obsessed with your friends. Like, your friends shouldn't be your family. And it's great to have some bro time, but your priority should be intellectual activities and work-based pursuits. I mean, obviously it's good if you have male friends to do work with. Like, you want to work on gardens or do a business or work out together. But if you're just like doing degenerate activities together, they're not really your friends. Like, that's actually a really important point, is that a lot of people, they think their friends are their friends, but they're not their friends. Their friends are just trying to push you down to their level to justify their inadequacies. So someone is not your friend if they want you to do degenerate activities. If they want you to get drunk or sleep around or steal or get into fights, they are not your friends. They are agents of darkness. And the darkness will always seem attractive because that's what has been designed from Hollywood, and it's just easier. But a lot of friends, they want you to be shit. They want you to be fat. They want you to be weird because it protects them from trying to evolve. It's very interesting as well, the statistics, is that people used to spend a lot more time with their families than they do their friends. It's only since the shitty 60s that people have become so obsessed with their friends. At the end of the day, friends are going to use you like as a business term. Most of the time, people have been designed to look out how to get something over someone. So a lot of the time, when you're talking about adult friendships, they're getting something from you. They're getting status, or they're getting potential mates from you. So yeah, it's good to have some friends, but keep them at arm's length, not make them the focal point of your existence. And also, it's practical to make your family your friends as well, to an extent, because you can share business with each other and you can help to get rich, so you don't have to you know constantly be in the grind whereby your skills are being wasted in a position that it's not beneficial. Like, look at all the greats in this world. It's fine to spend a decade or so in a trivial job that's not in your skills, but eventually you need to break free if you have skills. Like, you need to not settle for second best. Like, I feel like there's a real radical leftist agenda to make people okay with mediocrity. And I don't mean just work 12 hours a day every day and go bald. I mean, be smart about it. Like, you don't have to work all day to be good at something. You just need to, because most jobs, like, I think about it, they're only hard at the beginning. It's like being a Like most jobs are only really difficult when you first get your foot in the door. Like imagine to be like president, right? How much harder is it to campaign than it is to actually when you're in there? When you're in there, you're just doing meetings, right? You're signing paperwork. It's much harder to get there. Or like to be a teacher, how much harder is it to get your qualifications like at a university? Once you're in the position, it's fine. Or like a manager in any business is so much harder than the grind of the employees. Like the initial grind is 10 times harder than actually rising to the ranks. But the thing is, when you rise the ranks to a higher position, then you have a lot more responsibility. So if things go wrong, you get more consequence. But you should have faith in yourself at that time. So everything's really hard at the beginning. It's like finding someone to love, having a baby, starting a business, or like getting into the gym, or starting religion, or staying away from drugs and alcohol. It's only ever hard in the beginning. Like it's tricky maintaining it, but it's not nearly as hard as actually activation. Like imagine someone who's never worked out in their life. They're like 40 years old and they go to the gym for the first time. This is someone who's been going 3-4 days a week for 20 years. Like yes, the person going to the gym for 20 years may have some bad days, but it's like 50 times harder for someone who's never been to the gym to go for the first time. Or like first time talking to women, for example, in like a romantic way. Like it's so much harder when you haven't done it much versus obviously down the track. I was really in a flow state for a minute then. It's really nice. It's really pleasurable. Like a lot of the time when I'm feeling tired and don't have much community, I can kind of feel like vacant. I can feel a bit silly and not remember that I've got such a beautiful mind, which is a gift, from who. But then I get into it again. And I was like, oh, that's right. You just need the right circumstances. You need to have a good morning. You need to have enough sleep. You need to have good food. And then all your skills are still there. Like, once you've got a skill, you never really lose it. You just really need to put the right conditions in so you can actually activate it. Alright, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Thanks for your company. And, yeah. Time to look after the baby.